The State of Rugby in New Zealand, an investigation into the issues facing the sport, a year out from the Rugby World Cup. The relationship between Sky Sport and rugby.
We're effectively partners with the Rugby Union and all our sporting codes. I guess we're kind of like the stadium. And the fact that when they do well, we do well, and when they bleed, we bleed.
Professional rugby and Sky Television were born at around about the same time. And you've got to give John and the people that work at Sky significant credit. They've built a business over a long period of time. They had a long-term projection or a long-term vision for what Sky could produce as a commercial model. Certainly lost a lot of money in their formative years, but as Rupert Murdoch made very clear, sports was the backbone of pay television, and if we want to develop pay television in the Western world, we need sport content, and rugby in New Zealand in particular, and South Africa, has been a critical part of it.
If Sky were honest, they'd tell you that they've got 750,000 subscribers or thereabouts at the moment. Well, rugby and Super Rugby and the All Blacks have probably put, and this is a wild guess, at least 500,000 of those subscribers. I've given them to them. And you look at how much money they've paid for that and you think, who's got the better deal there? And I'm pretty sure it's Sky and not the Rugby Union, because they probably haven't paid anywhere near what it would cost them to truly build up 500,000 subscribers.
So what happens when these rights to the national game are negotiated?
Look, I'd rather not talk about the Sands, but let me talk to you how generally it works, is that someone will come to us and say, we have a competition, and what value do you place in it? And they walk us through that has so many home games, so many teams in the league, the games we played at this time of the season, this time of the day, and we will sit there and see how it impacts our existing competition. As an example, if someone came and said, I want an Aussie rules competition, I'm going to form in New Zealand, and it's going to be played identical times as rugby and rugby league, it'd be difficult for us to get away, no matter how valuable it might be. So they come to us, and then in the World Cup case, there's an extra complication in the fact that it's a joint bidding where very seldom do you sit down and there will be three bodies on the other side. In the case of the Sands are South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. Likewise, there's a consortium of broadcasters on the other side of the table. And so it's a pretty unique deal in that respect. And sadly, each country has a different, from the union basis, has a different opinion of things. And likewise, the broadcasters. So it's a complicated negotiations that are like herding cats.
Actually, this seems very complicated. But what we must remember is that this is a mix of business and pleasure. Perhaps an unholy alliance.
Rugby's changed from a game that we used to go and watch on the weekend. It's been dragged into the world of business, and the reality is that the NZRU is operating with a bottom line, and that bottom line is profit and money, and therefore rugby becomes a consumer item, not just the glue that holds communities together, or a fun game, or a physical expression of one region's rugby skills over another. It now has become a consumer item, and it's like television stations. Yeah, you could say, well, they exist to make the world a better place and to show children educational programs that will make them fully functioning better adults, and then society will evolve. No, they're there to make profits. They're there to get advertisers, because that's the bottom line.
Some poll a few months ago, I was voted the most powerful man in sports, and the fact of the matter is, it was up to me, we'd have nothing but Major League Baseball games and John Wayne movies on, but we'd have about 2 subscribers, and so at the end of the day, I sit there and I try to stay objective about all programming. I don't understand a lot of it. At the end of the day, I just sit there and I can read numbers on what people are wanting to watch, and again, they wax and wane due to the fortunes of the sport they're following.
What's good for rugby is good for Sky, so we'll do what they need us to do. But we see it as more than that. We see it as a genuine partnership. Not only, and for reasons that sometimes are not quite so obvious, but it's not just that a significant proportion of the money we need to run the game, and again, that's also, this money all goes into one pot. It doesn't all go into players. It is spent on referee development and women's rugby and junior football and administrators and schools and the other things we're doing. But it's also the presentation of the game. It's the link back to our fans. And I guess if we have I guess if we have challenged the sort of historic position of rugby in this country in the last 15 years, it's because we've taken rugby off easy access free-to-air television.
How do you pay for these players? How do you sustain a professional competition in this country without that money? So Sky is the boss, really, in terms of funding the whole thing. You probably get to a point of diminishing returns, I suspect, and there's a failure to evaluate the true cost of what Sky actually brings. Sometimes you have to say less is actually going to be more, and there's a danger for everybody, because everyone's in this together, Sky, the NZRU, that if you flood the market, you actually cheapen the product that's on stage, and you push the consumer away from it, where the interest levels do actually begin to wane a little bit. I mean, it does become a bit wallpaper.
What sort of drop in revenue would we take to put some television, some rugby back on free-to-air? Because the our unfortunate reality, no matter how we want to paint the picture, neither TVNZ or TV3 or Māori Television now actually have got enough money to be a real competitor for the bulk of our content. Yep. Now, if we want every game on television, which is Sky's proposition, they are our logical partner.
In the early years, when Sky had 25,000 subscribers, having the delayed rights to rugby was a very valuable product. As we continue to increase the size of the footprint of Sky Television, we're up to about 782,000 subscribers now, 49%. The value of delayed rights have become less. And so a TVNZ or a TV3 can probably make more money showing Desperate Housewives than it can rugby.
Look at what's on, and at the moment on provincial rugby you have Thursday, Friday, triple games on Saturday and another one on Sunday. I mean, I just think that's too much when it comes on the back of a similar Super 14 programme and 15 All Black tests in a year. I mean, you lose something special with that. You lose a bit of interest. I think everyone does.